Welcome to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into a slightly delayed Soccer Morning. WorldSoccerTalk.com. Good to have you, as I said, on a Thursday. Lots to talk about today. U.S. Open Cup last night. Day 2 of round 4 in the U.S. Open Cup 2015. We're going to go through those results with our friend Jeff Crandall, who's covering the U.S. Open Cup on behalf of U.S. Soccer. He'll join us in a couple of minutes here. I have to rush through the news because of our delayed start, which is fine, because the important stuff will come when we talk to Jeff, and then we'll open up the phone lines after we get done with the U.S. Open Cup discussion to hit on everything else that's going on in the world of soccer, including the continued saga of Clint Dempsey and the impending punishment over his actions at the U.S. Open Cup on Tuesday night. What I'm finding is that Clint Dempsey not the most popular guy in American soccer circles. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised by that, but we could flesh that issue out a little bit later. Going back to those U.S. Open Cup results, just a quick rundown. The Portland Timbers, that was on Tuesday. Let me go to Wednesday. Columbus Crew advanced past the Richmond Kickers in Richmond. DC United needed extra time to beat the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in Pittsburgh. NYCFC fell to the New York Cosmos in penalties after the Cosmos equalized in the 89th minute to take that game into extra time. Orlando City Soccer Club won 8-7 on penalties over the Charleston Battery. So sudden death penalties there. Charlotte Independence with the one upset of the day, beating the New England Revolution in Boston. The Austin Aztecs fell to the Houston Dynamos, another MLS team moving on there. And the Galaxy had no problem with PSA Elite 6-1 in their U.S. Open Cup matchup. A couple of other stories from around the world. Raheem Sterling once again pulled into a controversy over laughing gas. I really have nothing to say about that other than stop with the laughing gas, English soccer professionals. Chile has cleared Arturo Vidal to continue playing in the Copa America for his country, despite the fact that he wrecked his Ferrari and then was arrested for DUI in the aftermath. This is a player who decided that it would be a good idea to go get drunk at a casino on his day off from the Copa America tournament in his home country. U.S. Women's National Team will play Colombia in the round of 16 of the Women's World Cup. That matchup determined by results yesterday. USA-Colombia, one match in the round of 16 here. China-Cameroon, going through the matchups. China-Cameroon, Germany versus Sweden, big matchup there. France versus South Korea. Brazil versus Australia, Japan versus the Netherlands, Norway versus England, and Canada versus Switzerland. If you look at this bracket, you'll notice it's pretty heavy on one side. That's not good planning by FIFA. Lots of talk about that. Tigres of Mexico has signed French international Andre Pierre Gignac. Big signing there. Reportedly going to make $4 million a year. United Passions, the FIFA movie, certified or confirmed as the lowest grossing film in American history. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that the project, which made just $918 from 10 cinemas and has already been pulled, lines up ahead of such titans of modern cinema as the 2012 vampire rock musical I Kissed a Vampire, the 2013 animated adventure Last Flight of the Champion. Both of those made less than $1,500, but more than United Passions. Last night, the Copa America, Colombia, the men's side beat Brazil. Big result for them. Copa America rolls on. We've been talking about that tournament. Perhaps we can have some discussions about it after we talk to Jeff Crandall about the 2015 U.S. Open Cup 4th round. Good stuff coming up there. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Face in the crowd. You're talking too loud. But I can't hear you calling.
The best way to watch Copa America and the greatest players in the world, including Leo Messi, Neymar, James Rodriguez, and Alexis Sanchez, is on Sling International's exclusive broadcast of Copa America on beIN Sport. Sling TV is the #1 live international TV service in the United States. It's a safe and legal streaming service that delivers your favorite sports and more to your TV, tablet, phone, and computer. For just $10 a month, you can watch every single Copa America game live or on demand, featuring Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Chile, Uruguay, and more. Plus, Sling International gives you access to Barca TV, Real Madrid TV, the New York Cosmos, Serie A, and more top networks offered by Sling TV. There's no commitment, no annual contract, and no satellite dish needed. Don't miss the best leagues in the world on Sling International. Sign up today at www.sling.com/soccer. Again, that's sling.com/soccer.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
Here we go, talking U.S. Open Cup with our friend Jeff Crandall. You can follow him on Twitter, Jefe Crandall, Jefe. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Good. I still have a little Open Cup fever after two nights of the fourth round, and getting ready this morning for the round of 16 draw over at Soccer House at 10 a.m. Central Time. So the fever continues a little bit longer today, and then we'll see what we have for the round of 16.
So the prescription for your fever is the round of 16 draw, and then you'll cool off for a while before we get back into the tournament.
We'll cool off a little bit. I gotta track down these guys in Charlotte and the New York Cosmos, and our two lower league sides that are still in the tournament after the fourth round, and maybe work on some stuff with them. But yeah, we'll cool down a little bit after today and ramp back up for the round of 16 on June 30th and July 1st. Well,
you mentioned it. Let's start there. The two lower division teams still in this. The Charlotte Independents, who sprung an upset on the New England Revolution last night, and the New York Cosmos, who mild upset, I suppose, but they beat New York City FC on their home ground. Now they were down 2-0 and had to make a comeback in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Is this tournament? I mean, I thought last night and Tuesday night, between the two of them, the many storylines, and we will not avoid the elephant in the room. We'll come around to it eventually on some level, but I thought those two nights together maybe one of the most exciting rounds of U.S. Open Cup I can remember, Jeff.
For sure. A couple of stats for you. We had, I think, of course, there are 15. We had 16 games over the last 2 days, but 15 were between MLS and lower league sides. And of those 15, we had 6 games go to extra time, another 4 go to penalty kicks. And I have to say, when you're running the Open Cup Twitter account and you have 2 lower league sides taking MLS sides to penalty kicks at the same time which is what happened last night with the Cosmos NYCFC in Charleston, Orlando. It gets a little hectic. A lot of excitement going back and forth between those two games. Trying to track, 6 or 7 games at once is interesting, and obviously watching Twitter as this is all going down, and people, the excitement that people feel, seeing the potential for the upsets, just some really good soccer, some really good goals. It all comes together for what we've known for a long time. Is the magic of the Open Cup, and I think more people are seeing it this year.
I felt as though, and I know there were some exceptions, and it was weird. I talked to Adrian Heath yesterday ahead of Orlando's game against the Charleston Battery, And by the way, thoughts with the people of Charleston. That's a much more important thing going on right now. But he said we're going to take it seriously. This is a way into the Champions League. We've obviously been in the Open Cup as a USL team. I know what this is about. We have to be careful. We don't want to lose, et cetera, et cetera. And then he sort of lined up that he was going to play some younger guys and give an opportunity to them. So he kind of playing it both ways. I feel like a lot of MLS clubs try to do that a little bit. We're taking it seriously. Oh, but we're going to play our reserve guys or our young players who needed some experience. I still felt as though, and there were a lot of names on the field over the last 2 nights that constitute big names. I felt like MLS took an interesting step forward in treating this round, the first round that they're involved with, pretty seriously, Jeff.
I do too. It's sort of a case by case basis, and we should keep in mind, teams are just coming off an international break. Half of MLS played on the weekend, and everyone's circumstance is a little different. I know here in Chicago, Frank Yallop said that said we're going to put out close to the same team that they put out on Saturday against New England, and I think I don't think he was lying necessarily. I think he also had to evaluate where his team was at. Coming off that game and 2 international absences. Sean Maloney coming back from Scotland duty and apparently had back spasms and some injuries that were coming out of that New England game, and you saw a weaker lineup for the Fire. So everyone's situation is different, but we did see, like you said, some big names. Robbie Keane scored his first goal in the U.S. Open Cup, not just his first goal, but his first 3 goals last night, getting the hat trick against TSA Elite. So, another team that sticks out is New York Red Bulls on Tuesday night. Put out, save a few international absences. Put out definitely their A team against Atlanta. So I think it's changing, but this first round where MLS teams come in, it's still you can't expect every team to play their A team. If they can handle it, if they get upset by a lower league side, then that's fine. But most MLS teams did okay over the last 2 days.
It was interesting. One of the other added wrinkles in this particular season, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first year that this happened. I noticed on Tuesday night that Seattle Sounders fans had to split their focus between their top team, their senior team, playing against the Portland Timbers, the only MLS matchup in the round, and then Sounders 2, obviously playing in USL, going up against RSL at Rio Tinto Stadium. Is this that? I don't know. Have you talked to any Sounders fans about that particular experience? Obviously, the night didn't go well. They both lost.
I haven't, but that might have been on purpose. I don't know. No, you know what? It's probably not the first time it's happened.
Okay.
MLS team, at with USL, the second sides, it is the first time. But MLS teams have had PDL teams in the Open Cup before.
Sure. Okay.
From my experience, the first team for the Fire and the PDL, I think, at least played on the same night once. But it would be interesting in that regard because Seattle Sounders 2 are still a professional team, and you know what? They did have a lead on RSL away for a bit there, and looked like they may pull the upset. They definitely gave RSL a scare. So splitting loyalties. I'd imagine most Sounders fans will mainly focus on that game in Pensacola, Portland. But interesting position for a club like that to be in. And I'm sure that's not the first time we'll see it as more of these, MLS reserve sides, come into play moving forward in the tournament.
Yeah, okay. Let's come to that aforementioned elephant, and let's identify first that Jeff is a working journalist and nothing more. He does not have any official capacity with U.S. Soccer, so he's not going to give us any insight. He doesn't know anything more than the rest of us do when it comes to what happened on Tuesday night and what the ramifications will be for Clint Dempsey, but. Jeff, I think it's interesting to sort of point out, and I'll ask you. I will ask you one difficult question, but first, what I took out of that game, and what I took out of that reaction, what I took out of the Sounders fans' feelings about what happened, is that they really care about this tournament. They're obviously the defending champions. They've won it a bunch of times. There's a club history. Clint Dempsey clearly cares about winning the Open Cup, and that's why he was so upset, not to excuse his actions.
Yeah, I think, obviously Seattle and their supporters care a great deal about the tournament. I also would say Portland and theirs do as well, though they haven't had the success Seattle has had. And that match had all the makings of, I don't want to say, that match had all the makings of, some drama taking place. I don't think anyone would have predicted that a team would have finished the game with 7 players. I don't know that I've ever seen that. I'm sure it's happened somewhere, but I don't think I've ever seen it. Seattle will feel hard done by a little bit. I looked at the red cards though, and I sort of felt like they were all deserved. So, interesting, their first loss at Starfire. It's a great venue for them for the early round Open Cup games, by the way, if you've never been there. And it's been sort of a fortress. It was always interesting though, with the one all MLS matchup. I kind of had an inkling in my mind that it might be the time that Seattle finally lose at Starfire, and it happens.
We talked about Siggy Schmidt's comments previous to the draw about, or in the aftermath of the draw, about the regional nature of the draw at this point in the tournament. Clearly, that's a nod to travel costs for some of these teams. That pitted the Timbers and the Sounders together in the 4th round. Just from your personal perspective, Jeff, do you think that we would be better off if that kind of matchup happened, say, in the quarterfinals or the semis, or was on Tuesday night, was that enough heat and passion around it to give it as much importance as it should have in this tournament?
I wasn't there, but I saw plenty of heat and passion on the web stream. I don't think it. People would love to see that game happen later on. I don't think it. To me, I don't think it matters. You have 2 fan bases that care deeply about the tournament, and 2 that don't like each other very much, and one of the strongest rivalries in MLS. So, sure. It may write a better storybook for them to have a dream semifinal or final matchup, but that doesn't seem to be in the cards. And the nice thing is that as this tournament grows, those teams can play against each other in the first round if they had to, and it would still, the passion would still be fueling the match. So Siggy's comments on the regional thing again are understood, but I think it's just not where this tournament is, and the way the draw had to play out is the way it played out. So, Seattle will get to focus now on the MLS season, trying to win 2 other trophies, but Portland is now off to the round of 16. Should be interesting to see how they continue.
Yeah, let me come back to I'm going to use that game as a jumping off point for a discussion that's happening, and it's you indicated that from what you saw, and of course we were watching on a web stream, not being at Starfire, and that makes it tough to judge sometimes. You said that you didn't think any of those red cards were completely out of bounds, but there is a discussion about the level of refereeing in this tournament when you have high-level professional teams involved and you have a lot of games, Jeff. And I imagine that's a very difficult thing for U.S. soccer to have to deal with. Rather than sort of just rip apart referees, who I think are doing the best they can, what steps are being taken to try to deepen that pool and get us to the point where, at least we know we're dealing with some competent people at every game that's happening, again, between professional sides?
Yeah, you caught me off guard a little bit.
Sure, fine.
I'm not a spokesperson for U.S. soccer on that one, so I couldn't tell you in any great detail. On the referee side, I do know that all games are monitored and referees are assessed at all matches, and that's pretty normal. But beyond that, I can't give you
fair enough
full details on that.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't trying to put you on the spot with what the program is necessarily, but I mean just we obviously I think I'm just looking to establish the fact that this is going to be a process, and now that the other element of this, Jeff, and this is a good thing that brings some negatives with it. So many more of these games are visible, are out there for us to watch now. Clearly, this is a round that's all about streaming. but there were some high quality streams out there. I mean, I watched One World Sports, which actually is television. That was television for the Cosmos game last night. The Sounders stream was excellent, of excellent quality considering the venue and everything else. So that's going to put more scrutiny on these referees and more scrutiny on these games in general. Sure.
I mean, yeah, that's natural and normal, and I don't think that that's a bad thing either. People have when we think about this when we think about this tournament, we always talk about the magic, but there's also the passion, and we want fans to want their team to win. And if a call goes against them, we see it in MLS all the time. People complain about MLS referees all the time. It's no different in the Open Cup, in a tournament where you're in a knockout format, and the difference of an inch or one goal can see you through to the next round or make you have to wait until the next year. So completely natural, and it's a good problem to have, in my opinion, because the more people that are watching, the more streams there are, the more games that are televised. It's all about growing the tournament going forward.
Yeah, let's come to again the two lower division sides that are still in this tournament, Charlotte and the New York Cosmos. I'm going to come to the Cosmos because I watched some of that game last night against New York City FC. I thought it was a brilliant match, a great advertisement for the tournament. Not the best stage for it necessarily, and that's not really a criticism. The Cosmos are dealing with what they have to deal with at Hofstra, but otherwise, I thought you saw everything that makes this tournament great, including some of those players who aren't out there every night for NYCFC getting an opportunity. Then some of the starters playing. Obviously, the Cosmos take this thing incredibly seriously, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Jason Kreis is one of these coaches that I think came out last week and said NYCFC wants to take it seriously, and he's a former winner as a player with the Dallas Burn in 1997. So. At the hour mark, it looked like NYCFC would be winning their first ever Open Cup game and their first ever match, and we'd be putting that one to bed after 90 minutes. And it didn't. I think it was Leo Fernandez and then Lucky Kasana in the second half stoppage time, or right before that equalized. NYCFC had another chance in extra time with a penalty kick that didn't get on frame and. Went to penalties, and Jimmy Maurer for the Cosmos goalkeeper, I believe, saved 3 penalties, which I don't think it was the first time in the round where a goalkeeper saved 3 on the night in the shootout. So, really storybook kind of game, and I'm happy because I predicted before the round that we would have 2 upsets. I saw Charlotte happen, and watching this Cosmos game kind of go this way, and when they missed the penalty in extra time, I kind of felt like, okay, they're at home. I think they're going to do it. So my prediction was correct, and I feel good about that. But it's nice. It is nice as you're trying to promote this tournament to have 2 teams outside of MLS still going at the round of 16.
The one of the things that the regional element of the draw actually does that I think is probably underrated, Jeff, is it gives people the opportunity to travel for these games, particularly in a round that's got a bunch of professional teams and teams with solid fan bases. I mean, we saw 19,000 out at Sporting Park for Sporting in St. Louis FC. And I think that was a pretty good crowd at Hofstra last night. Lots of NYCFC fans in attendance with those teams being local. So it was attendance. I mean, how is attendance going from what you can tell? Because I imagine it's a little difficult getting hard numbers and seeing what those atmospheres look like from streams. But it seems as though this was a round where people actually showed up and were interested in what was going to happen on the field.
Yeah, it's a great point about the regional side of this. It does allow away travel, which is, think about a midweek match. If it's not easy to travel away at midweek unless it's within a few hours. So Kansas City, St. Louis, actually, I believe, broke the 4th round attendance record, over 19,000, as you said. The New York, the East River Derby, didn't exactly see a number, but they did seem to have a good crowd, and it does seem that attendance is trending up. Every venue, every market is a little different with it, but if you are getting those 2 clubs that are generally pretty close to each other, you can expect probably a little bit of an attendance bump, and that's been nice to see.
Now that regional element, does that hold for the round for the round 5 draw that we're going to get today? And are there certain matchups that are likely, or I don't know, how does this work?
Yeah, sure. So after the final game last night, after LA Galaxy PSA Elite at Open Cup tweeted the 4 geographic groupings of 4 teams that will go into the draw. So you have 60. You're in the round of 16. You have 4 different brackets that are all geographic, and it's a process of drawing out of envelopes at this point, and somewhat based on who applied to host this round and the quarterfinal round, where they end up in the bracket. There's actually a great article on ussoccer.com that details the draw process for this morning's draw. I recommend everyone try and go on and read it beforehand. And, this will be the first live Open Cup draw, I believe, ever. We did the thing on 120 Sports for the last round, but this time we will show the whole thing live in its entirety. And I think that's an important step for the tournament. And a lot of people should be engaged around what's happening for their team in the round of 16.
So after this next round, which these games are June 30th and July 1st, after that round, we go to just a bracket, and the rest of it flows from there?
Correct.
Okay. So you'll be able to, once we get this draw, you'll be able to actually kind of, depending on, obviously you can work out your bracket to pick winners and maybe go all the way through to the process of picking a U.S. Open Cup champion in 2015. Jeff, obviously some of the magic of this tournament lies in the underdogs. We talked about the Cosmos. I'm not sure they really count as an underdog, considering how much they put into this tournament and how good that team is, even though they're in a second division setting. The Charlotte Independents really are an underdog. I didn't get a chance to see any of that Revolution Independence game last night. Can you tell me how it went, how they managed to pull off the upset, and what you think their chances might be for round 5?
Honestly, I only got to start watching it right before Charlotte scored. And by the way, Jorge Herrera, the goal he scored for Charlotte was incredible. I think we tweeted it from at Open Cup. We'll certainly put that up again today. But the game, it's not a dinky tap in. He chests the ball down and takes it on the volley and puts it in the opposite upper 90. So Charlotte, after they got the goal, sat back a little bit, as you might expect, and New England couldn't break them down. And a lot of credit to Mike Jeffries. He's a 2-time Open Cup winner here in Chicago. Of course, people might remember him as the head coach of the Dallas Burn in the early aughts, and he's kind of bounced around a little bit in American soccer. I know he was a scout for Bob Bradley during the 2010 World Cup, and he's had a couple other runs at the Fire since then. But he started with Charlotte, this USL expansion team this year, and he's already won him $15,000 for this advancing Division III team. So pretty successful start for him. Charlotte is the true underdog. You're right, in this tournament going forward. But we'll keep an eye on both teams and see how it goes. But those are the two that if you're neutral, if your team's out, and you still have some interest in this tournament, you should definitely be pulling for those two teams.
Sure. I mean, I think rooting for the Cosmos is a little beyond the traditional pulling for the underdog thing, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. I'm not saying don't root for the Cosmos. I'm just saying there's an added element to rooting for a team with that sort of history and those sort of ambitions, et cetera, et cetera. We're guaranteed a new champion in 2015, Jeff. I imagine that that adds an interesting wrinkle, despite the fact we only have those two quote-unquote underdogs left in the tournament. But even from an MLS perspective, some of these teams are going to struggle in the league, and this becomes their opportunity to put a trophy in the trophy case.
Definitely. I spoke to Jim Curtin before. They survived a huge scare on Tuesday against the Rochester Rhinos. They had to go to penalties to win that game. But he talked to me about last year's run. Obviously, he took over that team in the middle of the season, and told me that the tournament really helped him get going, helped the team gain confidence. And though they didn't make the playoffs, they made the final, and they even were moments away from maybe winning the final if they could score a goal very late. So, teams that are maybe down on their luck a little bit in MLS play definitely will look at this tournament and say, hey, if we win a couple of games, we can gain momentum. And you see it a lot in the league. The Fire have done this too in the last few years where they've had bad starts, but the Open Cup has carried them through. So I'm not quite sure who that's going to be this year, but it seems to happen every year where the Open Cup can be a nice Kickstarter for an MLS club and getting them through the rest of the season.
I will finish up with this. This is from Champagne Soccer Company on Twitter. The new regional matchup rule is the best thing to happen to this tournament. Ever this excited about the fourth round? Question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. Some people are loving this. Again, Jeff, just to put a bow on the whole thing, I feel as though the round we just completed, one of the more interesting, fascinating, exciting, thrilling rounds I can remember in recent history. I mean, we've had some upsets, we've had some good games, but across the board, that thing just delivered all over the place.
It did, and the other thing I'm really happy about to see again. We talked a little bit about the streaming, but 14 of the 16 games streamed over the last two days, and another one had audio. So just getting that reach and coverage out there, getting the games available is a huge step. So there maybe scrutiny on referee decisions is a small negative you have to deal with, but there's huge positives there too. And when there's so many close games, like I said, 6 going to extra time over the last 2 days, it's really special. And I think the streaming will continue going into the round of 16 and all the way through the tournament. And I'm glad that he's so excited to use exclamation point and question marks. I'm excited too for the tournament and excited for today's draw.
Jeff Crandall, Talking U.S. Open Cup. Follow him on Twitter at Jefe Crandall, Jefe, and follow the official U.S. Open Cup handle at Open Cup on Twitter. Jeff, enjoyed it very much. Hopefully we'll have some more discussions as the tournament continues.
For sure, Jason. Everyone tune in as well to today's draw, 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 Eastern on USsoccer.com. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. We'll certainly do that. So the draw coming up for the 5th round. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines, talk to you on a Thursday, Soccer Morning, WorldSoccerTalk.com. Be right back. The best way to watch Copa America and the greatest players in the world, including Leo Messi, Neymar, James Rodriguez, and Alexis Sanchez, is on Sling International's exclusive broadcast of Copa America on beIN Sport. Sling TV is the #1 live international TV service in the United States. It's a safe and legal streaming service that delivers your favorite sports and more to your TV, tablet, phone, and computer. For just $10 a month, you can watch every single Copa America game live or on demand, featuring Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Chile, Uruguay, and more. Plus, Sling International gives you access to Barca TV, Real Madrid TV, the New York Cosmos, Serie A, and more top networks offered by Sling TV. There's no commitment, no annual contract, and no satellite dish needed. Don't miss the best leagues in the world on Sling International. Sign up today at www.sling.com/soccer. Again, that's sling.com/soccer.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
Here we go, back on Soccer Morning on a Thursday. Happy to take your phone calls right now at 646 832-3909. Good stuff from Jeff Crandall. Good to have him talking U.S. Open Cup. Maybe you have U.S. Open Cup thoughts. Maybe you have thoughts on Clint Dempsey. I know this is day 2 of the Clint Dempsey discussion, but I don't think we're done yet with this, are we? And I think we have sort of evolved to the point now where it's all about whether they should be throwing the book at him, no pun intended, and whether or not he should be stripped of the U.S. captaincy. I mean, that's the level I'm getting on Twitter. Now, if you're out there and you don't agree with any of that, if you think that, the punishment should be less than some people are claiming it should be, or you don't think that the captaincy has anything to do with this, or at least he shouldn't be stripped of the captaincy for the U.S. national team because of this, I need to hear from you because I'm getting a very unbalanced take out here. What I'm seeing from my Twitter feed, and I wrote a piece for ESPN FC in which I sort of outlined that 3 months is a long time and maybe he shouldn't get 3 months. But what I'm getting from the responses to that story is, hell no, he deserves it. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Sit down, shut up. It's your fault. And maybe more than just the crime and punishment element of it for a lot of people, because for whatever reason, human beings like to be very steadfast in their right, wrong, black, white, you did the crime, get punished thing. Follow the rules. We like to be very, very black and white about these things. But more than that, I'm getting the sense that people don't really like Clint Dempsey very much. I don't think the U.S. soccer fan base is in Deuce's corner. Like, maybe I shouldn't be surprised by this. I mean, he's clearly the type of individual that can upset some people and annoy some people. And if you're not a Sounders fan, that's already a strike against him. But I'm maybe surprised by the level of vitriol, but by the level of hatred for a guy who has played a lot of games for the U.S. men's national team, scored a lot of goals. Maybe we've already crested that club over country hill, and I didn't catch it. Maybe I missed that. Can we let's turn around and go back, because I'd like to figure out when that happened. This seems to be an MLS fan reaction to an opponent doing something he shouldn't have done, and now asking that he be punished for it, even if that means that the U.S. men's national team suffers because they don't have Clint Dempsey because he's suspended. That's interesting to me, that people would be so steadfast in their belief that he should be punished significantly, even if it means that when they get to the Gold Cup, the U.S. doesn't have one of their most creative players. Chris says the national team and the club should be separate. What if a foreign player did this? They can't affect his national team. Be consistent. Well, suppose there's a point to be made there. Cuauhtemoc Blanco, a couple years back, while playing in the Open Cup for the Chicago Fire, headbutted somebody in the tunnel or something. And I think he got a 2-year Open Cup ban and a fine from MLS of $7,500. And that was the full extent of his punishment. I think this is different. And I think this is, while it's not as violent as what Blanco did, I think it's worse from a soccer perspective because, again, it's about the referee. And I laid this out yesterday on the show, why it's important, why it's necessary to show respect to the referee on the field, why it's important that we don't abuse referees, not just so that we can get more referees, because why would you want to be one with the current state of treatment in the world, but also because the entire system breaks down if we don't all buy into the pact that is trusting the referee to make those decisions. JC on Twitter, I'm in Dempsey's corner. Too much made of this. He should be punished, but Bradley, Josh, and others have had their issues. Okay. I remember the 2009 Confederations Cup. Michael Bradley got in trouble for something in the tunnel and was suspended by FIFA, right? It's a couple of games for that. It's a long time ago. He wasn't nearly as important as he is now. It's kind of tough. Stephen Clark, I like Clint. I don't like people that do things that don't face consequences. I will respect him if he accepts punishment. Oh, JC meant Josie, not Josh. I gotcha. Tolstoy FC chiming in with his ratio of club to country. That's interesting. 80-20. So you're 80% club, 20% country. See, I don't have an MLS club that is out and out my team, despite the fact that so many people want to pin one on me. But I will say, from an MLS national team perspective, because I obviously am a huge, massive MLS fan, supporter, watcher, American soccer in general, I'll say that I'm 30-70. Is that right? Does that sound right? Maybe 40-60. I love the national team. Robert in LA, you want to take us in a different direction. What's up?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about last night's World Cup, Women's World Cup games.
Go for it, man.
Hey, I was watching Spain's games last night, and I don't know if you got my tweet, but they were eliminated from the competition.
Okay.
And I just wanted to ask you this one question. It's before the tournament started, a lot of experts were saying that they were going to make a deep run because of the players they have, because some of their players play for the women's styled Barcelona team, and I've never watched it, but they're telling me that they're good players.
Sure.
And I expected to see that same type of style. And I was watching it. It was that same philosophy they had. Pass the ball, and then that goal they scored against South Korea. So it was very much similar to that one they scored in the Champions League final. But then they just after that, the second half, they just fell apart. They just couldn't make that final touch. I don't know if you were watching the Spain games.
I didn't get a chance to watch Spain, and I'll admit that I didn't. I don't think I watched any Spain, maybe a couple of minutes in this tournament. It is sad to see them go out. They were a debutante. This is their first Women's World Cup. There was a lot of talk coming out of their camp about making a strong showing to gain respect for women's football in Spain. I get the sense, and maybe I'm being a little unfair here just because I don't have intimate knowledge, but I get the sense that nobody in Spain cared. And that's part of why I think it's difficult for teams like Spain to go to a Women's World Cup and put on much of a performance. They don't have the support. They don't have the cultural backing. They are out there sort of floating by themselves. I think the talent can be great, and clearly they had some talent. But putting together a team that plays like a team is a much different process, Robert, and they weren't there yet. Maybe this experience gets them closer to that goal.
Yeah, I agree with you because the players they had. I mean, the commentator Glenn David, he was telling me this person plays for the Barcelona and Sevilla and Atletico Madrid. So I'm expecting okay, we're gonna get some great attacking football, the La Liga type, but very disappointing. And can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you're watching the U.S. Open Cup games. And first of all, congratulations to LA because they won. I was there, very excited. I was nervous at the beginning, but they got through. But I was watching the DC against the Riverhounds, and then when the Pittsburgh Riverhounds score a goal, the commentator said, if it bleeds, it can be killed. And I was thinking that should be your goal call.
If it bleeds, it can be killed. All right.
It was the greatest thing I heard.
All right. Well, actually, I've been catching up on Game of Thrones. There's got to be something in there that I can grab, maybe for a goal call or something. Winter is coming. I don't know, something. I'll figure it out, Robert. I don't know that I'm starting to move away from the idea of a patented goal call I use every time, if I ever was to do play-by-play, because I'm clearly not cut out for it. I'm starting to move away from that idea and maybe just being a more in-the-moment kind of guy. Maybe I'll just, whatever comes naturally. I think that maybe that's the better approach.
Okay.
All right. You're disappointed.
All right, that's what I wanted to ask about. And actually, that caller, that expert for Spain, you're talking about the Women's World Cup, I forget, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Who was that one so I can follow him?
David Cartledge is our Spanish football guy.
Okay. By any chance you're going to have him, I'd love to see what he thinks of Spain crashing out of the Women's World Cup.
When I get an opportunity to have David back on the show, we'll certainly go back in that direction. Appreciate the call, Robert. Good stuff from Robert in L.A. 646-832-3909 is your phone number. Andrew on Twitter. Dempsey should be officially banned for 5 to 8 U.S. Open Cup games, but I don't think he deserves U.S. men's national team captaincy anymore either. All right, that's look. we got two issues here. We got the punishment issue and what those guidelines are. And look, there's a 3-month guideline out there, and there's a 6 games guideline out there, and but I don't think it's at all clear where these guidelines apply and to what competitions they apply and to what elements of their game what I'm saying is, and it is a good point made by Chris, that if a foreign player does something in the Open Cup, the best U.S. Soccer can do is ban him from that tournament, or perhaps ask MLS to suspend him, or suspend him and then have that carry over to MLS. There can't be any impact on his national team from a U.S. Soccer perspective. So why would Clint Dempsey have to suffer that? Well, because he plays here, and because he's in a U.S. international, and because you send the wrong message and a mixed message if you say, yeah, you can't play in MLS for 6 games, but come on over to the national team. Help us win some games over here. And then because of the MLS scheduling issue, you get into that question of whether or not a suspension that applies to MLS with a player on international duty counts against the suspension. Is there a policy on that? If a player is called up by his national team and goes and plays for his national team and misses an MLS game that he would have been suspended for, does that count against his suspension? And how adamant are you that Clint Dempsey needs a significant punishment here? Now, and what are the reasons? I mean, is it because there needs to be an example made of players who go after the referee in this manner? Is it because it's Clint Dempsey and you just want to see the guy get suspended? I mean, if you're in the more leniency camp, what are you asking for here? Because I don't think anybody can say, well, he doesn't deserve anything. It's not a big deal. Steven on Twitter, regarding Dempsey's captaincy, it all comes down to Jurgen's judgment. I'm sure Bradley's results and Dempsey's actions help that. I do think the timing is extremely interesting. Clint Dempsey misses out on the U.S. trip to Europe because of the birth of his 4th child. Meanwhile, Michael Bradley puts on an absolute show and runs the U.S. and leads them to 2 victories over top European competition. Then, in the aftermath of that trip, Clint Dempsey goes out on a field in Washington and acts a fool. And now there is an open question over whether or not Michael Bradley should usurp Clint Dempsey. And Mike, part of my concern here is I don't want us as American soccer fans, and I'm not saying the captaincy doesn't matter because it clearly does, and it matters both as a symbol and as leadership within the team, although team leaders kind of come together without needing to be labeled. I don't want us to put the American captaincy on the pedestal that the English do with theirs. I think we should be careful with that. And if we're being careful with that, maybe this isn't something that feeds into the notion of taking it away from Clint Dempsey. JC says Dempsey should still be captain. I want my leader to have some fire and personality. You'd rather have this than I'm not going to use that word, but that's okay. Yeah. Let's go to Daniel in Atlanta. What's up, Daniel?
Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, sir.
I'd like to congratulate the Galaxy.
Okay, that's two congratulations for the Galaxy today already. Go ahead.
But I'm still upset with them because they should have scored more.
Oh, come on.
Right.
Seriously, you're gonna get bitter about a 6-1. I know that's an amateur team over there. You think it's gonna be 10 or 15, but they got the job done. Robbie Keane's scoring for you again. That's gonna give him some momentum heading back into the league. Just chill a little bit, Daniel. Just chill.
How many people actually thought PSA were going to beat LA is what I'm asking.
Nah, nobody did. Come on. No, the people who hate the Galaxy were probably like wishing that was going to be the case, but nobody really thought it was going to happen.
But who hates the Galaxy? Nobody does. Everybody
are you serious? Okay, well now you're just being facetious. All right, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, the whole Dempsey thing is ridiculous. I mean, he's supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to set an example for everybody.
Yeah.
And what he doesn't do, Michael Bradley does better. He stays quiet.
I think that's
when he has to talk, he yells at the ref, but he doesn't do something stupid like what Dempsey did.
Yeah, I think that the fact that there is a Michael Bradley out there on the national team is the interesting element of the story for me, because if Glenn Dempsey does this and there is no Michael Bradley, or Michael Bradley doesn't show all of the characteristics we want out of a captain, then nobody's talking about that part. We're just talking about his punishment. We're just talking about how many games he's going to miss for the Sounders and whether or not that's going to impact his national team duty. But we're not sitting here also saying, well, he shouldn't be captain anymore. And again, I don't want to raise the captaincy up to some exalted status, and I want to be careful about moralizing too much here, because ultimately what Clint Dempsey did isn't a big deal in the grand scheme of life. It's just that within the soccer dynamic, it is troubling to see somebody who's supposed to be a leader disrespecting a referee that way.
I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, I was watching ESPN, and around the horn, and they actually showed a guy from Argentina, I don't know if it was the second division, actually punch the ref during the same segment that they were trying to segue into Dempsey ripping up the ref's card.
Well, but see, I think that we're going to get into some weird false equivalency stuff here, Daniel, and I don't like when people start throwing around the length of suspensions for various things and act as though that's sort of an indication that we're not taking something as seriously enough, or we're taking something else too seriously. The rules are written. Whether you agree with the rules or not, they're out there. They're in black and white on paper or on your computer screen. There's also the fact, I mean, I'm looking at Twitter here, and an ex-Rangers defender, Bilal Mosny, was given a 7-game ban for punching an opponent, okay, in the face, attacking him. 7 games. Now, if Dempsey gets 6 games for tearing up a notebook, people are going to laugh at that. Oh, look at how weird this looks next to this other thing. But again, we're talking about different jurisdictions and different games and different situations and different rules. And to draw a line between those two things, I think, is the wrong way to look at it. Got anything else, Daniel? I'm sorry, I steamrolled you there.
No, that's all right. It's all right. I don't know. It's just, for me, when I see somebody in a leadership position, I actually want to see them lead, you know? And it's sad when you see a leader do something so childish and so idiotic like he did. Other than that, I just want to say, you know, congrats on the Cosmos for winning. That was a good ending to a Cosmos game. And I don't think New York City FC would have deserved that win even if they won it. Boku played well, but I wanted the Cosmos to win it anyway.
Okay, well that's fine. But I think NYCFC played pretty well. I gotta go, Daniel. I appreciate the call, man.
All right, no problem.
Daniel in ATL, good stuff from him as always. Let's go to Andrew in New York. What's going on, man? Andrew, you with me?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey,
what's on your mind this morning?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, on the New York City match, yeah, it was pretty good. I actually watched about 80 minutes and was like, New York City's got this in the bag, and went to go play soccer and came back and saw they lost.
Yeah.
So that was pretty horrendous. Yeah, I was just reading a couple things this morning. I don't know if this is actually the real reason, but Christ saying he left Villa out because he was concerned about the turf. And I guess last year, Petke had similar concerns about Henry and didn't have him play there either.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of, I mean, is the standard just such an NASL that it doesn't matter, like the turf as much, or does the U.S. Open Cup just have different standards on that? How's that all work? Because it seems to be, I mean, if you've got the potential to put on a really great player, not that they would have anyway, who knows, but, and then you have this turf issue getting in the way.
Well, I mean,
it seems like something that's happened a couple years in a row.
You know, MLS has dealt with the turf issue because Henry didn't want to play in a lot of places that had turf. I think true. I think that he, he begged off a bunch of games, and I'm not surprised at all that Villa, as an older player, decided not to play, or Petke decided not to, not Petke, Christ decided not to play him and risk him on that surface. I don't know that there are, I mean, I imagine the standards for the U.S. Open Cup are the standards for every level of professional soccer in this country, and then coming down from FIFA. I mean, the referee inspects the surface. If he decides that it's, within the guidelines as permitted by the rules and the laws of the game, then they play the game. I mean, beyond the terrible markings that the Cosmos have to play with, I'm not sure that turf is any different than what they play on in New England, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's what I was wondering. Yeah, I'm sure that tends to be more of just the line that they give when they want to, keep him out, and they've got an MLS match on the weekend.
Look, like they're managing his minutes, they're managing wear and tear. People who play on turf will tell you that the impact It's not necessarily, it's not necessarily the I don't know. It's mainly the impact on the joints that you get. I mean, there's not as much give in the surface, and that means your joints are going to ache. And if you're 35 years old, then yeah, your joints are going to ache a little bit more than a 23-year-old. So that's a consideration.
Sure.
And they're not going to risk David Villa. They're just not. I mean, they're going to take that seriously, but they're not going to risk David Villa. So it is troubling. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was it on that. One other thing for you. Any news on the Pirlo front? Some people are saying, no, it's definitely not happening. And then someone else is saying, like, I've got a source that says it's definitely happening. And it seems like it's all over the place right now. And it might just be a good rumor.
I think right now it's just a really good rumor. I haven't heard any recent developments in about, a week and a half or so. I mean, since we sort of got the original... Hey, it's definitely happening. And then, in the aftermath of the Champions League final, it was like, no, I'm really not sure what I'm doing yet. I might come back to Juve, and the guy's sitting in his vineyard, just sipping wine. We'll find out.
It sounds like a good life.
Yeah.
One last thing, real quick: the two defensive signings that New York City just made. Have you seen anything, especially from the guy from Bilbao?
He's good. I mean, he's obviously incredibly experienced. Brings knowledge from playing at a high level. I think that's a big signing for them. I think that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that it means the difference between a playoff run and not a playoff run, but at least you're bolstering that back line, which is where they needed the most help.
Great.
Appreciate the call, Andrew.
Thanks, dude.
There goes Andrew.
Yeah,
let's talk to Roberto in Connecticut. So what's up, Roberto?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to the conversation about stupid influential leaders and talk about Neymar.
Okay. He's 20, 23, 22, whatever the hell he is. How is he the leader of? I know he is. I know he's captain, but how is that the leader of Brazil? That's what confuses me.
Because Dunga thinks he's the most influential player on the pitch.
So that's all it takes. When you are the best player, most influential player, then you are the leader. I guess. Okay, sure.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering. I'm following his yellow card after the Colombia game, and then the red card after the game. He's going to be missing the next 2-3 matches. How do you think Brazil is going to cope with that?
Who do they have next? Venezuela, right?
Venezuela.
And then I know he's missing Venezuela. Is he missing more than that?
Given Brazil do qualify, then yeah.
But the red card's a 1-game suspension. Is he suspended for another game after that for some other reason, or? I'm confused.
He got a yellow. Well, he got a yellow card in the first game. He got a yellow card in the Colombia game, so that's automatic suspension for the third game. The red card is probably going to be another one, so he'll go on from there. Okay. Well,
if he's missing a knockout round match, then that's obviously huge. And I don't know how the bracket breaks out for Brazil right now. And they haven't been overly convincing. I mean, obviously they lost to Colombia. It took till very, very late to beat Peru. I'm not impressed with them right now. I would imagine that they're in major trouble without Neymar. It seems that Dunga's philosophy is let's play some defense and then let Neymar create something on the other end, and it's kind of a hope and pray situation. Now it's Neymar, so you have a very good chance of becoming good. But now that you don't have him, where's your attack going to come from?
Yeah, exactly. And Brazil doesn't exactly have that type of star that they have up front, that they have at Neymar.
They definitely don't have a clinical striker up there, no. Yeah, anything else?
It's going to be it's going to be interesting, and hoping that if Brazil do qualify, because given the how the format works, it could actually happen that they don't qualify. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. We'll take a look at that. Thanks for the call, Roberto. I appreciate it. I'm just going to try to catch up a little bit on the Neymar red card situation as we turn over to Tim in Brooklyn, who wants to talk about the Open Cup. Tim, you're on Soccer Morning.
Hey, good morning. New York is green. Very happy.
New York is green. Now the Red Bulls are still in the tournament, but for the time being, the Cosmos have bragging rights on NYCFC. And I guess if you want to carry over, last
team.
Well, okay, fine. It's still. All right. You're the New Yorker. I'm not. It's fine. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, one thing, well, first of all, God damn it, I jump up and throw my back out, so I can't even really entirely enjoy it.
Oh no,
the win. But the pain is good. The turf. We got two 38 and a 37-year-old running around like kids out there on that turf. So as far as I'm concerned, I hate turf. I'm sure it sucks, but if Villa, is that his name? If he can't play on that, prima donna, whatever, sit at home. I don't know, go cry somewhere else. But I wish, unfortunately, the second year in a row, one, we didn't have Senna, who is just huge for us. He is by far our best player, best midfielder, and rules that midfield. So I was very sad not to have him and be able to come away with another 3-0.
Yeah. By the way, good point here.
But Maurer,
hold on,
Jimmy Maurer is a beast.
All right. Yes.
We saw him take the penalties in China earlier. We got to see him with that, and he's a beast, man. He won that game. I mean, love Lucky, but Maurer is the man.
He did a wonderful job. I think for whatever reason, NYCFC telegraphing their kicks a little bit, but hey, that's what a goalkeeper's supposed to do. Is read those signs and make the right move. And he made 3 saves, and it was a great performance by him. I will say this, and Steven makes a good point. Apparently, New York is just a different shade of blue, because why on earth did the Cosmos decide to wear their blue kits last night?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the reason why we have the blue kit was because of Pele, and they chose the blue for Brazil. It's our third kit. I don't know. We've had some good games with it, so it's maybe kind of talismanic. But yeah, I wish it was green. But in the end, we were the best team in blue, so I'll be fine with it. But, hey, question:
Yeah.
Who is televising the later games? And 2, how would you feel about One World Sports taking on the U.S. Open Cup, like each round doing a cup night or a game of the round? They got good product. I know they're not everywhere, but they can stream, and we need someone.
Yeah, I watched some of that. I watched that stream, obviously, when I watched the Cosmos and NYCFC last night. There's Mike Pecky, Shep Messing, and Ed Cohen in the booth. They were fine. I thought, I'm not a big fan of three-man booths, but I get why you throw Pecky in the mix there. They do a good job. There's no doubt about that they put on a quality professional broadcast. As you said, the issue is access. This is not a channel that even a small percentage of Americans get. I mean, we're talking about very niche kind of stuff here. So that's one thing I would be worried about, because right now I think the issue is that the rights are still with I think they're still with the Gold TV, who nobody gets anymore. So why replace a network that nobody gets with a network that nobody gets? I would.
Well, and you can stream.
No, I know. Yes, that is obviously
streaming would be better.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely, we would take a step forward if everything was available via stream, especially the semifinals and the final. If that fell to One World Sport, I would have no problem with that. They obviously have a responsibility to broadcast the Cosmos games. If and when the Cosmos go out of the tournament, then I wouldn't have a problem if One World Sport had the opportunity to broadcast other games. I don't know how much their resources would allow them to say, go to Kansas City or go to LA or go to Seattle or go to Portland or whatever and do those games. So that would be a concern. But beyond that, I mean, I could see that as being a step in the right direction. I mean, again, we need to see these games. We need access to these games. And One World Sport does fine.
Yeah. Well, one last thing. I hope the reffing gets better. We got bounced out last year from some bad reffing, and honestly, last night we should have had 2 penalties. And the penalty that they got, that was pretty soft. I mean, Freeman had his hands on him, but the guy flopped. So I just hope the reffing goes better later.
Tim,
that said, Dempsey, it was BS.
Okay.
He should be out for 6 games.
Okay.
And I've wanted Bradley to have. I love Deuce. I got his shirt. But Bradley's the general, and that kind of attitude we don't need that. We don't need that.
Thanks, Tim.
Anyway, New York is green.
All right, there goes
New York is green. Have a good time.
Tim in Brooklyn. Obviously, the Cosmos are his team. I'm going to say this about the penalty, and I saw it. And yes, I understand there may have been a little bit of a flop or a little dive simulation, a little extra there. But you can't put both your arms around a player in the box and expect it to go unpunished. That's a penalty. Bill in New York, you're the last caller of the day. What's going on?
How's it going, Jason? I'm assuming Tim from Brooklyn must be a Buffalo football fan because they're the only team in New York. I love hearing that when they talk about Red Bulls. Oh, they're the New Jersey team. Give me a break. What about the Giants and Jets?
That's a good shot, Bill. Before you go on, let me just tip in here because I did forget. Madison Soccer telling me on Twitter, and I appreciate this. The U.S. Open Cup final this year will be on FS1 or FS2. So that's a step in the right direction. If it's FS2, that's a little less good, but still, incredible move forward for the final, at least, to be on a network that a lot of people get. Go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
That's good to hear. I'll tell you, last night, One World Sports, I think they did a great job with the Cosmo game. That was the camera angles. I mean, I guess it has more to do with the stadium than anything else, but the camera angles were great. I thought the announcers were good and everything else, but I thought they did a good job, and hopefully Fox Sports 1 will too.
Yes.
I wanted to talk to you about the turf injuries. I was a little surprised you blew that off that quickly. And I was wondering, are there stats out there saying where these guys have gotten hurt? And are there more injuries, more time lost because of playing on turf fields?
I don't think that there's a lot. I know there are studies out there. I'm not the guy to go read the studies. I'm not blowing off the potential for turf to have an impact on players in terms of injuries. I don't know that with the modern turf that things like ACL tears are any more common, Bill. And I think that the problem comes into, well, okay, so this player's got a strain or this player's got tendinitis. Is that related directly to the turf, or is that just wear and tear on a joint? I mean, I think sometimes it's difficult to know. I know players don't like turf. That's all I know. And therefore, I will always defer to the player and the surface that they'd rather play on, whether or not it does create more injuries.
Because like that young guy from Montreal, that was definitely a turf injury. And what
Cameron Porter?
To lose that kid for a year.
Yeah.
I think Porter, right?
Yeah, Cameron Porter. I'd have to go back and look to make that determination for myself. But again, I think it is at least on some level it is a subjective eye of the beholder thing. And we haven't seen. I don't think we've seen any major knee injuries at the Women's World Cup. I mean, knock on wood. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't know that means that the turf's fine and it's not a problem. I don't know. This is the issue, Bill, is that it's going to go ahead and get worse if you want to look at it that way. We're going to get more and more turf out there. Eventually, FIFA will ratify all sorts of turf, and we'll have a World Cup on turf, and the Premier League will have to be on turf. I don't know. It feels like we're moving in that direction.
Yeah, I just thought like if the numbers were skewed in one way, if it was saying a turf, I would think the players union get involved with this because they're losing their players for this. But I guess maybe it's not as drastic as I thought. I had one more question. The refs, where do they come from, these refs? Are these MLS refs that we had last night? Because I didn't recognize any of the guys.
Well, there's only so many.
I thought the guy was losing it last night. He was losing control of that Cosmo game last night.
There are only so many refs to go around. I mentioned this with Jeff Crandall. There are only so many refs to go around. There's only so many high-level refs to go around. There are only so many guys with anything close to experience at a game speed like you're going to get out of Cosmos NYCFC. I mean, think about the step up if you're doing second, third level games, and all of a sudden you now have to referee a game in the U.S. Open Cup between two very good teams. I imagine that's very difficult, and it can get away from you pretty quickly. I think this is – I know that it's easy to criticize referees, and certainly people have valid criticism from this round, but I think we need to recognize that this is a process in growing the referees. I don't know how we get there because I'm not in charge of the program, but I hope that they find some guys who know how to do this, Bill.
Yeah, because He just looked inexperienced, the guy last night. You could see towards the end of that game, he just started handing out yellow card after yellow card. Like he, in his head, was thinking, I'm losing this game. And he just didn't have the experience. And I guess it's because there's so many games.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if these were MLS guys or if there's a different ref that they use for these.
Well, like I said, there's
games.
only so many to go around. Appreciate the call, Bill. I got to move on. There's only so many to go around. And in this round of the tournament, with all of those games, you just can't fill them out. You can't get a high quality, experienced professional referee to every one of those environments. All right, that's going to do it for a Thursday edition of Soccer Morning. If you ended up on the phone and I didn't get to you, I apologize. We do got to move on. Got to prepare for Soccer Morning over on Sirius XM FC 94 in about 45 minutes to join us there for continued discussion of Dempsey and U.S. Open Cup and Women's World Cup. It's been a good one. Thanks to Jeff Crandall. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Morning. Buy a Soccer Morning mug at backheel.com/store. Buy a Soccer Morning t-shirt at 3NLFC.com. And what else? iTunes, ratings, reviews. Step up with that. And yeah, enjoy your soccer. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.